Hi, Jill and everybody. This is Mary Podal, and we're getting a little rain down here in the central part of the state too. Much better than snow.
I agree with that, Mary. I'm ready for spring.
Yes, definitely.
John, you're from over by Grand Forks. Did you guys get a good shot of rain there too?
Um, well, I don't, it's just kind of been steadily raining all day. I mean, not anything super hard or anything, but at least something, which is nice.
Yeah, I think it says we're going to end up with maybe 3/10 when this thing is all over. So nice to get a little bit of moisture in the soil after all the blowing we've had last couple.
Definitely. I know it's been so dry here that um, if we didn't get this little shot of rain, I don't know how beginning of the season would pan out.
Well, that's just it. I know my husband tilled my garden last week and he's like, well, it's pretty dry out there. And now it's looking pretty nice. So I'm excited for it'll probably be a few several weeks yet for me because I usually don't plant until right around Memorial Day, but my starter plants are going. Hi, everyone. This is Jill. We're just in social time. So if anybody wants to share anything, we'll be getting going here in the next 5 minutes. So welcome.
Hi, Jill. Thanks for hosting today.
Hey, no problem, Ellen. How you doing?
Good. Yep. I'm doing good. It's a nice rainy day here, so
Yeah, we have rain too. And like and I'm not sad about it.
Yeah.
Like Mary said, at least it's not snow, and that's a good thing. So I
Exactly.
think we can all use the moisture too after the blowing and the wind we've had in this neck of the woods over the last few weeks.
yeah, and maybe clean up some of the dirty, dusty stuff from winter,
Yeah.
all the brown.
Yep. Snert, I always called it when I worked for US NRCS. That's what we used to call it.
Nice.
Soil and dirt all kind of rolled together in the ditches.
Hmm.
Snow.
Hi there, Michelle. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Well, Jill Hakinson is kind of facilitating the meeting. So we're just gonna hang out and wait for a few minutes and then do some intros and then we'll hand it off to you all. Do you know, is Janice still planning on jumping in?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, sounds great.
Nice to meet you, Michelle.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us today.
Hey, well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I'll probably give it another minute or two here till we get people on, and then we'll get started. Hi, everybody. I see it's 2 o'clock, so I think we'll just get going if that's okay with everyone. And that way, as people join, we usually do introductions first. So it takes us a few minutes. So if people are joining, they can join in as we do introductions. I'm Jill Hawkinson. I'm a community development specialist with USDA Rural Development out of the Devils Lake RD office. And I serve as an advisor on the North Dakota Local Food Development Alliance Board. And so this is our April meeting, and we are excited to have some special guests with us today that will be speaking here in a little bit. But with that, I think we're going to start with introductions, like I said. And since I'm getting rain and I see spring out the window, let's start with our favorite spring activity. And my favorite spring activity is gardening. And I'm just going to go down the roll if that works for everybody so that we can go through it that way. Ellen.
Hi, everybody. Ellen Knutson Duffy coming from Bismarck. I'm the board treasurer for NDLFDA. And I think my favorite spring activity is just watching my garlic and tulips pop out of the ground. So thanks.
Thanks, Ellen. Jan?
Yep. Hi, everybody. Jan Stankwitz here with NDSU Extension. I'm in Bismarck, and my favorite spring activity, man, lots of them. But I will say we busted out our grill the other day, this weekend. So I'll just say like grilling for the first couple of times.
Thanks, Jan. Sandy, we'll go to you.
You say my name.
Yes, Sandy, you can go.
Sorry. Sandy Shively, North Central Planning Council. I would say just being outside, enjoying some fresh air.
Thanks, Sandy. Stephanie.
Hi everyone, Stephanie Bloomhagen. I'm up in Botno. I'm the executive director of Farms. My favorite spring activity is going out and foraging for those first asparagus shoots that come out and the first nettles. I have a few weeks. Oh, and the crocuses, finding crocuses.
Thanks, Stephanie. Felicity.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felicity Merritt. I am calling in from Fargo. I am an Economic Recovery Corps fellow and working with local food systems in North Dakota. My favorite spring activity is, probably just watching and tracking as things start to come up from the ground and trees get buds, and just like I like to take my walks and like see where everything is in the neighborhood and as things start to grow again.
Thanks, Felicity. Jenna.
Yeah, Felicity, you just stole all my answers because definitely my favorite spring activity is just, watching everything turn green again, hearing the birds and going for long walks for sure.
Awesome. Dawn, would you go next?
Sure. Don Rognerud, I'm president, Town Square Farmers Market here in Grand Forks, and also a food policy committee lead for Blue Zones Project Grand Forks. I guess my favorite spring activity would be planning for the farmers market season.
Don Mary.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Podol, and I just am a retiree from USDA, NRCS, local food advocate, and now I am an AmeriCorps member for Strengthen ND, a nonprofit that values rural community and local foods.
Thanks, Mary. We'll go on to Chris.
Hello, so I'm Chris Gesley. I'm a co-op development specialist with the Association of Rural Electric Co-ops. And I'm in Bismarck at the moment. And my favorite spring activity will be watching my kids go worm hunting. They love it in the rainy days and all worms come on.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Next, Briselda.
Hi, my apologies. I just joined. Is there a specific question or just introduction?
Just introductions, and then our question is, what's your favorite spring activity?
Oh, that's a good one. So my name is Briselda Hernandez. I am the executive director for Southwest Basin Planning Council. And favorite spring activity is I get to play pickleball outdoors. So as soon as the nets are up, I'm excited to do that.
Thanks, Briselda. Harleen. Harleen, could you go next? Oh, she must still be on mute. We'll go to Quinn and then we can go back.
Hey everyone, Quinn Renfinch here. I'm calling in from Minot, North Dakota. I represent the Red River Harvest Cooperative and the North Dakota Farmers Market and Growers Association. Favorite spring activity? Just sitting outside on the porch, honestly, just taking it all in, listening to the birds. It's very peaceful.
Thanks, Quinn. Shelby, have you went yet?
I have not. I am Shelby. I'm the marketing manager for Farms. I work and I live in Rugby, North Dakota. Favorite springtime activity, I guess the sun is out, so I feel like I have more energy and I want to do anything besides sit in the house. So walks, bike rides, anything like that.
Thanks, Shelby. Jan, did you introduce yourself yet? I know we were talking ahead, so.
Yeah, I did. Yep, thanks.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think everybody's went maybe now, but our speakers. So I'm gonna let Michelle introduce herself and
Wonderful. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Draxton. I'm a registered dietitian at Fargo Cass Public Health, so I'm located in the Fargo region. I think my favorite spring activity is flower shopping for the first time, to get all of the flowers ready for this summer and as long as I can keep them alive. But I also have a guest with me as well today.
I'm Kari. I'm a dietetic intern. My favorite spring activity is just going for walks.
thanks, ladies. Janice, I think, is on with us too, and she's helping you present, right, Michelle?
Yes,
I'll let
hello.
Janice
Sorry. Yes, I'm Janice Tweet. I'm the Ending Hunger Director at the Great Plains Food Bank, co-presenting with Michelle today, also a co-chair of the steering committee for the Cass Clay Food Partners. And I think my favorite spring activity is similar to what we've heard of, just watching everything bloom and turn green again.
Awesome, thank you. Did I miss anyone? We can go back to Harleen if she's able to introduce herself. If not, I think we'll just get started here and kind of move into our agenda a little bit. Thanks everyone for answering the warm-up questions. Michelle just introduced herself and so did Janice, so I'm not going to go through their introductions too much. As you heard, they're part of the steering committee. They serve as chairs for the Cass Clay Food Partners, and today they're going to share some information and updates on what they've been working on. So I'll let them take it away. I think they have a PowerPoint too. Is someone able to give them screen permissions?
Yeah, that would be wonderful if I could screen share. Yeah, so right now I'm getting a message that says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Sorry about that. I shared mine and then I closed it really cool accidentally. Let me select you, Michelle, and I will make sure. Give me 1 second, sorry.
No problem. Well, in
My
the
first time
meantime-
facilitating the Zoom today, so.
Oh goodness, no worries. But in the meantime, I'll thank you for the opportunity to be able to present. As mentioned earlier, Janice and I are the co-chairs of the Cass Clay Food Partners Steering Committee. And so the Cass Clay Food Partners is a food policy council located in both Cass and Clay counties. And we would just really like to provide an overview of the Cass Clay Food Partners, and then also some work that we've been doing as we have some exciting things coming up in the year. But in the meantime, or before I kind of jump into the overall PowerPoint, there we go. We had the opportunity to be able to collaborate with the city of Fargo and their team, their comms team, to be able to develop some different videos to really highlight the work that the Cass Clay Food Partners does. And so we thought that it would be great to be able to share one of those videos with all of you to kind of give a nice overview of what the Cass Clay Food Partners is. So I'm going to get that started now. Can everybody see my screen okay? All right, wonderful.
Yes.
The Cass Clay Food Partners initially came together about 12 years ago. It was started by local public health and extension from both sides of the Red River. Our food system is everything entailed in getting food from the ground to our dinner plates. So that includes looking at how food is grown, where food is being grown, if the right kind of food is being grown for our community, how is that food being distributed, where is it being sold, how is it being marketed, and then finally, do people know how to prepare foods that are healthy?
Access to healthy food is terrifically important, and that feeds into a healthy lifestyle, being healthy for the rest of your life. You can't have a healthy community if you've got a community that has people that aren't secure with food sources. City Hall, city employees exist to provide services to the community. It doesn't mean just streets and water and sewer and all of those things. It means helping the community to be as healthy as they can. When you look at the foundation of being healthy, safety and security is number one, and food is part of that.
Food is foundational to public health in a number of ways. Cooking with your family, gardening, being outside, having that stronger connection with where our food comes from, not only improves our dietary health, but it helps us feel more socially connected to one another in the community. I believe that the Cass Clay Food Partners and this kind of values-driven network where people come together to really work on the edges and look at who's most marginalized by our current food system and what is the responsibility that all of us have to change that. So really, the Cass Clay Food Partners, we are looking at that full gamut of practices, policies, of businesses, of having access to gardening spaces and everything in between.
All right, so hopefully that was a good intro to our conversation here. So this afternoon, just want to give a brief overview of food systems, which I know everyone on this call is very familiar with, but also want to provide a history and timeline of the Cass Clay Food Partners, go over the structure and the purpose of the Food Policy Council, as well as kind of just go through again the history, purpose, and some of the work and accomplishments of the Food Partners. So starting with what are food systems. So as we even heard in that video, we can kind of think of it as from farm to plate and everything in between. So that's kind of a more simplistic way to think of the food system. But if we think of it more in like complex terms, it's really a network of all of those steps that are involved in food creation. So from production to processing, distribution, consumption, and waste management. But additionally, the food system really operates within and is influenced by, social, biological, environmental, economic, political, and health contexts. And so the image that you see there, as you can see, it's incredibly complex and it's big and has a lot of moving parts. So the Cass Clay Food Partners has a mission to improve all levels of community. First, I can't even see my slide here. I'm sorry. So to improve all levels of our community food system, to ensure that residents have access to safe, nutritious, affordable, and culturally based foods. And we also have the link to our website there, the CassClayFoodPartners.com. Again, that we'll reference throughout the talk today, but it does host all of our information as well as resources. So a little bit about the timeline with the Food Partners. So this Food Policy Council kind of started almost 15 years ago. So formed back in 2010 as the Cass Clay Food Systems Initiative. So at that time, it was a joint effort between public health on both sides of the river, as well as extension. So when I say across the river, I'm referring to Cass County in North Dakota and Clay County in Minnesota. A food systems plan was completed in 2013. And at that time, a recommendation that came out of that food systems plan was that a food policy council should be formed. So then in 2015, that food commission, the Cass Clay Food Commission, was formed, and that was formed to include 7 jurisdictions. So again, that would be both Cass and Clay counties, as well as the cities of Moorhead and Dilworth in Minnesota, and the cities of Fargo, West Fargo, and Forest in North Dakota. in 2017, a joint powers agreement was formed. So there was some change in the structure, as well as a new name. So it changed from the Cass Clay Food Systems Initiative to the Cass Clay Food Partners. And at that time, it was decided to add an action network into the structure of the food partners. And so that is where Food of the North, they were a local group in our area. They decided to really take that on. And so they began kind of launching that action network in January of 2018. And we'll get into more history of that specifically, but they did dissolve at the end of last year. So our network, as you can see, is made up of 3 different arms. So we have the Cass Clay Food Commission, we have the steering committee, and then the action network. And we'll go into more detail about all 3 of those. So the Cass Clay Food Commission, the purpose is to address and discuss policies relating to the local food system. And so again, it consists of elected officials from each of the 7 jurisdictions that I mentioned earlier, and they are listed there on the slide. But in addition to those elected officials, the Food Commission also consists of 5 at-large members, and they apply for the positions. The steering committee reviews those individuals who do apply, and then they serve 2-year terms with the opportunity to continue if they wish. So the Food Commission then consists of 12 members. So the steering committee of the Cass Clay Food Partners Steering Committee, I'm sorry. So we are comprised of key government organizations and food systems experts, really working to provide direction, organization, and management. And we do meet monthly to really talk about, what is happening in our area around local food systems to help kind of build the agenda for our Food Commission meetings, and also, kind of help with any sort of policy development and really support the commission in terms of moving any of that work forward. So Food of the North, as I mentioned, was really the group here in our area that decided to take on that action network arm of the structure of the food partners. And so again, back in 2018, when they decided to take that on, they launched what's called First Fridays, which at that time was a monthly meetup on the first Friday of the month to really bring members from the community together to engage and discuss different food topics that are happening in our area. So they started holding it in Moorhead, and then in their later years held it at a local restaurant in Fargo. And I think they had 8 successful seasons bringing in different speakers and topics. Is really a way to connect on specific food related items. And as mentioned, they did decide to dissolve at the end of 2023. And so Janice and I, as co-chairs of the steering committee, began having, good conversations about what that might look like next. And so she will kind of transition us into where we're at now.
Michelle. Yes, so of course, with those 3 arms of the food partners, having and sustaining an action network is really a key component, really allows us to connect with the public and make sure that people are aware of food systems issues happening. And so when we learned that Food of the North was dissolving, Michelle and I started to think about what could next steps look like, knowing that our action network is such a key component. And so really what we wanted to do first was connect with community. And so we did do a survey with those people who are within the local food action network already, visiting those First Fridays events, wanted to learn more about what they enjoyed about the events, other ideas they might have about kind of where it could go, and help us try to shape what the food action network would look like moving forward. There were also some people who came forward, kind of raising their hand that they would want to be involved in figuring out how to keep something like Food of the North or First Fridays going. Had conversations about what it might look like with some of those different individuals too. Decided that letting Food of the North and First Fridays kind of fold or resolve themselves we decided it was probably going to look pretty different moving forward, but wanted to just make sure that we were really taking those learnings together. And so we did want to hold an event immediately and not kind of let the momentum that Food of the North had created subside. And so we did host a food system bingo event earlier this year in January, which was just a great opportunity to get people together in a more casual social environment while also still learning about food systems. And then we continued to have those conversations and actually had our first meeting last week as that Food Action Network. And very excited too that Felicity is one of those people who raised her hand as wanting to be involved in this moving forward. So we're lucky to have Felicity joining us on the Action Network as well. And then, so through all of these conversations, there have been a lot of discussions, a lot of different ideas coming forward about what makes sense, how do we want to do this, what types of events do we want to have, how do we want to create community moving forward. And the idea that we came out with on Friday was really to go a bit almost take a step backwards and create a monthly newsletter. There are so many great food systems things already happening in our community, and we really want to take this time to kind of take that step back and really start to engage in what's already happening and start to be an organization that can help lift up some of those great things that are already happening, and be a cheerleader and promoter for those. So we're going to be starting a monthly newsletter, just sharing some of those learnings, highlighting different organizations and different events that are already happening, and then also be able to connect with different organizations and support some of those events too, moving forward. Over the years, our commission has also done a lot of other work. Early on, we had formed into more so committees, task force type groups that were doing some very specific work around urban agriculture, food access, and sustainability. Those committees have since kind of subsided and the work has grown from that. But one thing that we've done that we're really proud of is we have a series of blueprints and issue briefs that are available on our website that really take a look at some of these different policy areas and give suggestions of how different jurisdictions might be able to implement those within their community. They are fairly generic. I mean, they're specific in getting into the topic, but in their recommendations, they're not for any specific community, just kind of considerations to think about. So they're great for jurisdictions that are outside of the Cass Clay Food Partners as well. If there are any, if you represent any cities or anything that would also be interested in learning about how some of these things might be able to be implemented in your community, those are available on our website, cassclayfoodpartners.com, which we've mentioned previously. Within the last couple of years too, a lot of our jurisdictions here were going into their comprehensive plans, and we were really able to work closely with them as well to make sure that food systems and thoughts about food access were considered in these comprehensive plans where cities are kind of looking 5, 10, 20 years into the future and making sure that food will be a part of those discussions. Some of the bigger topics that we've been more involved in, backyard chickens, we're really excited that we've been able to be a piece of that. There is a blueprint on that to learn about how jurisdictions could adopt that, but we were involved at the City of Fargo, City of Moorhead, and City of West Fargo as they have all worked to allow backyard chickens over the last couple of years, with West Fargo just within the last couple of weeks adopting their ordinance, which was really exciting. We also in 2018 were able to establish a gleaning network, Glean ND, that was really set up for Fargo-Moorhead area to be just a little more specific just because of transportation, having those key relationships. But the way the database is set up is that it could easily house different jurisdictions hosting their own gleaning network within the database that already exists. So a couple of years ago, Bismarck Burley Public Health did do some apple gleans, use the system, and was part of that too. So it's definitely something that's transferable across the state. And we really were intentional in choosing that name Glean ND for the network so that it didn't need to just be Fargo-Moorhead where we'd have our Fargo-Moorhead network, but could share that resource across the state with anyone who is interested as well. Boulevard gardening has also been a big one that we've worked on. Boulevard gardens, getting boulevard gardens accepted as ordinance in both Fargo and Moorhead, and really working with the jurisdictions to make sure that those policies really meet community needs as well. One thing that we're really proud of is how our COVID response Obviously, we all know how much everything shifted and was really constantly changing during the height of the pandemic right away in 2020. And there were a lot of different things that people were looking for. It wasn't always easy to find food. Local growers weren't necessarily able to get stuff out as well. And so we really saw that as a gap and wanted to make sure that there was somebody out sharing information as it was constantly changing. So we were holding daily and then weekly Facebook Live videos, just sharing the latest updates. We also had an ongoing resource list that we kept published so that people could see where they could access food as different things were changing, both with food purchasing and with food pantries and their availability as well. And in that response, we were also able to reflect after that and be able to create a journal article that was shared just as what our network's response looked like during the pandemic. Currently, we are always working on a multitude of issues. As we know, the local food system really covers so many different entities. And you can see there recently, we've been talking a lot about food insecurity, focusing in on the social determinants of health, really helping the local officials to understand how food insecurity and food nutrition really interplay with all the different issues that are coming before them from their communities. We are also, as a steering committee, participating in a community of practice that is led by USDA, Ohio State University, and Johns Hopkins University. There's 10 other food policy councils across the country that are participating in this. And we are just about to the end of our 18-month commitment in that. And so have learned a lot through that and look forward to some of the best practice learnings that come out of that, that the group is hoping to put out as well. And then what's really exciting that we're happening now, we've had so many changes over the last year with the Action Network and learnings with the community of practice. We really feel it's time to do strategic planning. So in May, we're going to start a strategic planning series here, working with Jeff Schatz, who is a local consultant here, working through that strategic planning sessions over the next 6 months, and really excited about having what direction we're going to find from there and how we're going to move our work forward after going through that. As Michelle mentioned at the beginning, we do have our video project that we've done, so we were able to show one of those videos today. But if you're interested in learning more about backyard chickens, gleaning, those other things as well, we'd encourage you to just check out that resource again on our website, but also the QR code there will take you directly there. And so with our food commission, we do meet every other month with the exception of July. We do take the summer off. So we have 5 meetings a year. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, May 8th, 10:30 to 12. It's always the second Wednesday of the month in which we meet. We are live in the Fargo City Commission chambers, but all of our events are streamed as well if you wanted to be able to watch anything. And then we do also have public comment time at all of our meetings. So if you're local in the Fargo area, we would encourage you to join us in person too, or submit public comment to connect with our electeds as well. All right, and so I think that wraps up our content, but I think we have plenty of time for questions as well.
Thank you both so much for the presentation, Janice and Michelle. We appreciate it. I'll entertain if anyone has any questions for our speakers, please feel free to ask.
I have a question. So I like those blueprints on your website to assist local governments with policy and different things. I'm just curious, how has that looked in terms of making them aware of those resources, those different government bodies, and then the lift of trying to get them to implement or yeah, just to deliver the information to them. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've really tried to be intentional at those commission meetings, the food commission meetings, to present on at least 1 or 2 of those policy blueprints, just to kind of bring them back to the surface in terms of, if we have a new elected official who is now part of the food commission and isn't aware of all of the policy blueprints, then we can introduce it. Or for those who are aware of them, it's a nice refresher in terms of these are available. And within all of those blueprints, it does indicate per jurisdiction, whether the specific topics, so backyard chickens, for example, are permitted or not permitted. And sometimes as we go through the specific examples, you can see the elected officials from each jurisdiction notice whether their jurisdiction allows something or not, or if they have an ordinance on it or not. And then afterwards, they can have some more conversations about it. And as a steering committee, we're always available to come to council meetings or to provide more information and resources. But that has kind of been the primary way to bring those topics forward.
I'll also add that when we have created the different blueprints, the commissioners have been involved during that process. So of course, it's whoever is on the commission at that time. But we do go through a process where as information is compiled, it's presented to them, they're asked to review it, make sure that it is entailing everything that they think needs to be discussed too. So they are a little bit invested during that creation period as well. And then we as a steering committee have been working back through them. Sometimes we might have done one 5 years ago, and we try to be intentional about making sure it's the most up-to-date information too, so that it stays relevant to jurisdictions.
Okay, excellent. And that came to mind because several organizations on this call are part of the Regional Food Business Center, which is a USDA initiative. And we recently put together a statewide local foods plan, and a big part of that is advocacy. And I see materials such as those blueprints, helpful tools for the advocacy portion of things. Very nice.
And Chris, I would even welcome it if, at the state level, if there are things that, are new topics or relevant topics across the state that maybe we don't have as policy blueprints, we definitely welcome, different ideas as well that could pertain to this region too.
Sounds good, thanks.
You see Jan's hand is up too.
Yep, thanks, Jill. Thanks for the info, Janice and Michelle. One question I had was around, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna lose it probably. Data and like evaluation stuff. So when you put out blueprints and is the commission and like the stakeholders within those government organizations or entities, are they interested in like the data and measurable sorts of things, or is it kind of still at the point of just creating resources and sharing out? I'm just interested in, like, is there data around some of those sorts of efforts, and is that how is that used, or how is that reported?
Would say I'll start and then Michelle, you can finish. I think some of it is dependent on the topic. So our commissioners currently are very interested in food insecurity, and they love to get the data on kind of what the state of the state is, or I guess the state of the community is in terms of food insecurity rates, and how many visits are going to the food shelves currently. So and within, there's a hunger and food insecurity snapshot and issue brief, and there's a lot of data points contained in there, and we just updated those as well so that they're the more relevant data points. But I'd say it really depends on the type of issue we're talking about, of where kind of the data interest lies. Michelle, I don't know if you have any more to add to that.
No, I would agree with that. I think we're kind of reminded to reevaluate some of those data points as new topics arise, or as a new jurisdiction is looking to implement one of the policy blueprints. So the backyard chickens, again, when West Fargo was interested to potentially even draft a policy, looking into, okay, what is happening in Fargo, but also what is happening in Moorhead. And kind of provide some of that information. And they did do that at the city level themselves, but how can we as the food partners also support some of that information? So yeah, it is kind of on a as needed and topic basis, but definitely something that we should be aware of.
Yeah, and that's good to know. Just thinking on like, trends or measurements in change, and that, community-wide change. And if those efforts can, not be solely responsible, but, play a part in, food security increasing or something like that. So yeah, good info.
We have about 5 more minutes here if anyone else has any questions. I know I have one. I'm curious on the boulevard gardening and kind of what all that entails and how that has gone over in the different cities.
Yeah, so I can speak to kind of how that's going in Fargo. So with the Boulevard Gardens, individuals who are interested in having a boulevard garden do need to submit a permit in terms of kind of the size and where it will be located in terms of their lot. However, there's no fee to have a boulevard garden. So with that said, the number of applications that are coming in are very low. And so I don't know if because there's no fee that people aren't submitting an application, but are just going forward with the boulevard gardens. But we have heard that, you know, they are well received. People are at least thankful for the option to potentially grow different items on their boulevard, specifically if they don't have the lot size to be able to have that space in their yard elsewhere. So with that, it's a really exciting thing, but like I mentioned, there just aren't a lot of applications coming in specifically for boulevard gardens.
It's a neat concept. I thank you for that, Michelle. I think that holds a lot of interesting possibilities in communities where there isn't access to gardening and things like garden space. So we have a couple more minutes if anyone wants to entertain one last question or.
I have a question. Since your partnership, it's like a multi-state partnership, has that been difficult to navigate with the way that each state runs their government, or how has that felt to be in a situation like that?
That's a good question, Ellen. It's something that we have also been having conversations about at the national level in terms of having conversations with other food policy councils, because we're finding that they all function a little bit differently, but yet we're unique that there is that elected individual from each jurisdiction who kind of takes ownership of how different policies and ordinances are then implemented in their area. It would be kind of nice if, you know, as the food partners, we could have a policy and then it be, you know, like a blanket in terms of this is what everybody in our area is going to do. But that's really where the steering committee really wants to provide that support to the food commissioners and at-large members to give that education, to support them in their efforts to really go back into their own jurisdictions and be able to carry policy or ordinance to pass. And Janice, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I think that was a great representation. And I think too, one thing that's nice is those blueprints where it is kind of outlining what different things to consider so that each jurisdiction can kind of take what they want instead of having to feel like it's a universal one. And I think one benefit too is that in the Fargo-Moorhead area, we're so connected as a community and the cities kind of learn from each other. And so I think that helps too, where the backyard chickens being a great example that Fargo does something, Moorhead hears about it and they start asking for it, and then West Fargo. So I think that it might take a slower time for all of the jurisdictions to get to something, but it kind of can have that ripple effect where it goes from one to the next to the next.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one last question. Do you hear of any other communities, like maybe, I guess I'm asking for North Dakota, like are other communities in North Dakota interested in kind of organizing around a food policy council or anything like that?
Yeah, I know Dawn can probably speak better to this than I can. I know that the Grand Forks Blue Zones has been kind of talking about if it's coalition work food policy, or that's what I've been hearing anyway, that there's some movement up in Grand Forks. I haven't heard of any others recently though.
Yeah, we are currently moving towards that as one of our goals. we're starting kind of the formation. Actually, we have our meeting tomorrow. But yeah, that's so we're still trying to figure out how that all looks, but we are moving forward to a food policy council who will act in a lot of the ways like you guys do already.
Very cool. Thanks.
Well, thanks again, Michelle and Janice, for joining us, and you're welcome to stay on with us if you would like. Our next on our agenda is going to be an update of our North Central Regional Food Business Center. So yeah, thank you. We appreciate it, and look forward to hearing more about the things that are going on with you. All right. Yeah, next on our agenda is North Central Regional Food Business Center, and the Business Builder Subawards is on the agenda. Jenna, I don't know who's speaking to this part of it, or
I can talk a little bit about them. If anyone else has information to add, feel free to. So yeah, Business Builder Subawards opened at the beginning of April, and applications are going to be due April 30th. So we only have a few days now to get those applications in. There is information about it on the North Central Regional Food Business Center's website. And last week I held a question and answer session, just kind of going over the logistics of the grant, and that recording and those slides are up on the Farms website. Oh yeah, just put them in the chat there. So if you know of someone who's interested, or you're asking questions about this grant, that is a great place to start. I will say it's a short turnaround time for this grant. So if you don't already have an idea or a project or someone that you're working with for this grant season, that it's going to be a little hard to get something together. But these are going to be offered for this year and then 4 more years. And there is $200,000 per each state. So North Dakota, Minnesota, and South Dakota all have funding for projects, and we know that that's going to be here for at least the next 4 years. So something to keep in mind if anyone is interested in potentially applying. But yeah, that information is there. I'm holding a kind of like office hours this Friday. So that the link to that is also on the Farms website for people who are applying for the grant. If you have specific questions you want to talk through, you can book 30 minutes with me this Friday, or just shoot me an email and I'll try and connect you with your regional technical assistance provider.
Felicity, can I add some comments to that? I think our understanding as this project unfolds is that the whole goal is to provide more technical assistance for local food projects to help them be more successful. So even if they're not ready to apply for this Business Builder grant right now, there's a whole sort of ecosystem of organizations that are being pulled together to help, say, a project that wants to get started, to help them refine their business plans, help them find other grants. And when I say ecosystem, I'm talking about the regional the regional planning councils and farms and the small business development centers. We're all here to help farmers and local food projects succeed. So yeah, if I think the partners are listed on the website, so you should, anybody that's doing a project, tell them to reach out to one of us and we will help them find the support they need.
What was the name of that grant?
The Business Builder grants.
Thank you.
Felicity, as people have gone through the application process or started to, has any have any general themes emerged in terms of questions that they're approaching you with?
Yeah, a lot of the questions I have gotten are just kind of clarifying what types of projects are eligible for this grant. Local food businesses is pretty broad. So I've had people from like individual producers asking if their activities, if they're eligible, up to like grocery stores, restaurants. And the answer is that the entity that can apply is pretty broad. So you can be a business, a nonprofit, you can be a grocery store or a restaurant, but the activities that you are working on are specific. So that's a lot of questions I've gotten is around, people will say like, I'm a restaurant, can I apply? I'm like, well, maybe, what are you doing? Because it's really focused on marketing, aggregation, and distribution of local food. So that has been the questions I have been getting, is like just around what types of projects the grant is looking to fund.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because they focus on that middle of the chain
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? Yeah, not the beginning and not the end, but
yeah,
everything else.
So like after the plants have been harvested, or like live, if it's a live animal or a plant growing in the ground, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting those products into markets. So like if you are a grocery store, you may be eligible, but you need to work with a local producer or a farmer's market or something to help get local food into your market. And if you're a producer, you need to be working to get your product into institutions in your community. Like it can't be funding for your on-farm pre-harvest practices.
Anybody have any more questions for Felicity or Stephanie on the project? I have one question. So it says for profits or nonprofit organizations that are small to mid-sized local food value chain businesses. Do they have to be specifically focused on, does that have to be their main focus, or could it be like a nonprofit that wants to put in some type of a commercial kitchen or something like that for people to do their canning and things like that for value added? Is that allowable?
My understanding is that it really is dependent on the activities that you're proposing. So if you're a nonprofit that focuses on rural innovation broadly, I think that would be acceptable if the project that you want to use the funding for, is a commercial kitchen or something like that. So yeah, it seems from my reading of it, what your entity is set up as, that part is pretty flexible.
Thanks, Felicity. The next part of our agenda says we're just meeting member updates for the organization here. Does anyone have any updates?
I had an update. Oh, I'm sorry, my camera thing was still on there. Okay, I have an update for farms. We have opened up our food systems internship applications. So those are live on the website now. Actually, I'll bring up the link for you. So I sent an email out earlier today to a lot of you, I'm sure, So if you have anyone in mind, please send them our way. It's going to be in Bismarck and Fargo, and the primary host sites we have on are Forager Farm and Bakehouse, Bismarck Burley Public Health, and in Fargo, it's going to be Red River Harvest Cooperative and Family Roots Farm, Jen Skooks. So a lot of people who are on this call. So just for anyone who didn't know, we've opened up that application and have a deadline for April 26th, but it's not a super hard deadline as well. So
What types of people should apply? Like who are you looking for?
yeah, so definitely anyone who's interested in sustainable agriculture. So anyone who would have wanted to join the internship program before, but because it's been opened up as a food systems internship, we're looking at people interested in like community health, public health, food policy, kind of like what we were talking about earlier today. Any kind of process of the food system. So, processing, aggregation, distribution, marketing, customer relations. It's really, really broad. So we're hoping to expose our interns to a wide array of experiences.
Do you want to say a little bit about the satellite sites, like the additional experience? Maybe some of the folks on this call might be satellite sites.
Yeah, so with the primary host site and the satellite site arrangement, the primary host site, the intern's going to spend the majority of their time there. And they're also going to spend a little bit of the time at the other primary host site within their location. But the satellite sites could be food banks, food pantries, farmers markets. I expect we'll have our interns help out at Red River and at Bismarck, anywhere in Bismarck. We're even looking at like waste management, recycling, so soil health, Minokan Farm, sites like that.
I can give a little bit of an update on the Strong Farms Incubator project that Strengthen ND is doing. We kicked it off in January with 5 to 7 students. We even have one from Africa that's taking the virtual classes. So that's quite a challenge because our classes are in the evening for us and in the middle of the night for her. But hopefully next year she'll come join us actually here in North Dakota to learn more about food systems that she can take back to her home in Ghana. If you're not familiar with it, the Strong Farms Incubator Project is a program for small farmers, new farmers, anybody who wants to actually get their hands doing something for a few years, and will be fully supported by Strengthen ND. We have plots out here at the Baldwin Greenhouse Nursery, and this year 2 of our students will actually have used the plots. A couple of the participants have their own farm or their accessibility to land, so they're just taking part in the classes, and then they come to the incubator area, the nursery, when we have specialty classes. Like we hosted our class this last weekend and we did farm safety, food, and not food safety, we did farm safety, and we did our tool overview. So we've been capturing and gathering and buying all kinds of tools for small farmers, the paper pot system for gardeners. We've got, oh my gosh, we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got a little bit of plastic. We've got these fancy hoes. We've got for weeding. We've got a little hoe that type thing that does the furrow row, and then you turn it over and it closes back the furrow row over the seed. So cool. So that's what we're doing. One of the ladies is doing cut flowers out here, and she'll be selling to either at Bismarck at one of the farmers markets or in Mandan, or both. And another one is peppers, and they already have a pepper business. They're just expanding, and hopefully in the 3 years that they take this program, then we'll be able to connect them to maybe a small plot of land somewhere around the Bismarck area that a landowner might be willing to let go of pretty cheaply. So that was kicked off. We're flying by the seat of our pants, but we got good people. Ann Olson is our manager, and Desiree Carlson is our educator. So it's been lots of fun, and we're moving forward. I just want to say I talked about farms this morning with our leadership group. You know, there we can make a strong connection. Maybe either the interns that take the beginning farms can then kind of transfer over if to this Strong Farms program or vice versa, but not trying to recreate this, but just continue growing programs to support small farmers and new farmers throughout the state. If you wanted to, or just come on out to the nursery anytime.
So what are you what's the content of the online classes that you've been doing?
It's very similar to Farm Beginnings. We've done an intense course on marketing, food safety, and then the business plan. They have their farm plan. So that's what they've done this first couple months with their plot of land and what they're going to plant. And we have everybody from a master gardener to somebody who really has the passion but has no knowledge. So it's kind of an interesting group of people that are learning from each other. And I don't have the curriculum myself. That's Desiree's part. I'm the on-site mentor. So it's a good question. I wish I could answer more.
Mary, when you're getting ready to connect people to land in Bismarck, reach out to me. I've got some land right outside of town that would love to participate in helping farmers grow. So,
okay, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
One update for NDSU Extension would be that we've successfully handed over the Double Up nutrition incentive program to Strengthen ND. And so they are working on kind of ramping up for this farmers market season. Ann Olson and I, the Ann that Mary mentioned, we will be kind of hosting an online meeting for farmers market or vendors who are interested in getting your feet wet in the nutrition incentive piece for farmers market. So, and along with that goes, you know, being already SNAP authorized or very soon becoming authorized. So if you are interested or know folks who are interested, you can point them in my direction. We don't have the specific dates and time details yet, but if you reach out, I'll get you on the list so that when we have it, I can send it out and get it to you all.
Thanks everybody for sharing. We're pushing up against 3 o'clock here, but Stephanie, I was going to ask you, did you want to mention that Region 4 is having their community input meeting? Is it Thursday?
Actually, we are canceling that one, and we're going to try to meet in the fall.
Oh, okay. All right. I just saw that was out there on the website. So I know I registered last week. So I was like, okay, that's good to know. I won't go to Grafton then on Thursday.
Yeah, but please don't. Hopefully notified you. We were going to. So
okay, I'll check and see if I got an email, but thank you for that. Does anyone else have any last minutes? It's 3 o'clock and I appreciate that everybody stayed on with us this whole time. It was great. If not, thank you. And I appreciated being offered to be the moderator, and we will see you all next month.
Thank you, Jill.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.